Hey, Clemson family, the Tigers are heating up on the recruiting trail once again. Signing day's getting close. Some new offers are going out, and they've been pretty well received.
I'm Daniel Shirley. It's also free agency time in college football as we take a look at the portal. Who's out and who could be in for the Tigers, and what positions are they looking at?
Sounds like that will actually happen this year, too. I'm Bill Zimmerman. Welcome to episode 48 of the Reign Supreme Alway podcast. Thanks to the thousands of you who've been making us one of your sources for analysis of the Tigers in 2022 on the major podcast apps and at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. Well, let's get to it. Recruiting is coming down to crunch time, at least for the early signing day, which now feels like the primary signing day, if you ask me. And I think a lot of people out there feel much the same. Running back had been the hole in this class, and it seems like it's finally being addressed. Some very favorable messages coming in around Jarvis Green out of Dutch Fork High in Irmo and around Jamarius Haynes out of Roanoke, Alabama.
It feels like those are the two guys, right? And probably both of them. Like, we've talked, Bill, for months about Clemson needs a running back in this class, and who would it be? Well, maybe there's two of them, and it does sound pretty positive with both of these players. I know Green got an offer on Wednesday, and then Thursday he decommitted from James Madison. And then things sound really, really good with Jamarius Haynes. So we'll see where they go forward, at that position. And they land these two guys. I think that'll be a big boost for this class because there needs to be some running back depth added for next year. And those two sound like pretty good prospects going forward.
Haynes had an offer for a while from running backs coach CJ Spiller. He's been on Clemson's radar, measures around 6'0 and 185. And at the time that offer went out and was very favorably received, Clemson was really in a slump trying to get any running back prospects. And now the offer goes out to Green very late in the cycle, but very well received. Decommitted from James Madison. He is an absolute workhorse, 5'11", 183. More than 2,200 yards as a senior, more than 30 TDs, and can catch the ball as well. So suddenly things are looking up for that running back room.
I know, just from following on Twitter, Bill, I can't tell you how many people I've seen the last few weeks say, when is Clemson going to offer Jarvis Green? And they did. And now it sounds like it could be happening with him maybe committing. At least there's an opportunity there. I mean, look, you say, well, James Madison, really? Do you want to go after the same players that James Madison is going after? But James Madison is a good program. And this young man is a talented player. I don't care who he was committed to before. He's a really good player. And Clemson's had good luck with Dutch Fork. So, we'll see how that goes with him. And then Haynes, look, I've looked at a lot of the film on Haynes. He's really, really talented. And I think he would be a terrific addition to this class.
Currently 23 commits where we stand right now. Interesting to see some of these new offers go out lately to help grow the size of this class. There's been attrition hitting the team. We'll get into that in just a few minutes. We've discussed the most recent commits having been Tyler Brown out of Greenville, South Carolina, a wide receiver, and then Tamarian Parker out of Phoenix City, Alabama, a defensive end. Brown maybe a little more of a depth take. Parker, however, an early enrollee that could truly shine as a freshman. A lot of talent in this class. It may not get into the top 5 in the country. It's hanging on the verge of the top 10. We'll see if it can stay in there even. But a lot of quantity and a lot of quality, and the former is a lot stranger for Clemson than the latter. Clemson always with a high average ranking among their recruits.
I think this class is right up there. Like, is it going to be the best class Clemson's ever signed? I don't know. I mean, we won't know until 3 or 4 years from now. We can't make those predictions. I know a lot of people do. They get paid to do that. But you don't actually know until a couple of years from now to see what this class adds to the program. So, just look at last year. I mean, we talked about that class last year and what it brought to the group. And then Antonio Williams comes in late as a senior and in the summer and doesn't enroll early. And he may have been the best player in the class. So you can't tell until these players get on campus what they're going to turn into. But I'm sure there's some stars in this class, and I can't wait to see what they're going to bring to the program.
No player's individual star rating really guarantees success or failure, but you want that overall average to be high to sort of be able to hedge your bets against, look, not everybody pans out. You work hard to develop everyone. Now, not everybody stays as long to develop. You don't have as many of those fifth year finally flipping the switch guys, right? Like Cornell Powell, like Mark Fields, even though he didn't crack the starting lineup, there were two good guys ahead of him, but boy, did he make his name well known at the end of the season, his final year at Clemson. We're not going to see as many of those late bloomer success stories, guys who turn it on at the very end of their career. And it's unfortunate to think about it that way. It makes evaluating these classes even tougher than before. But again, it's good to see that just about everybody here is very highly regarded by the analysts across the industry. Find a subscription service that you like, Rivals, 24/7, On3, ESPN Plus. There's a lot of good evaluation out there. Pick the one that seems to fit your mood, and you'll be well educated on a lot of this stuff. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Clemson Kickoff, both on Instagram and Twitter, and especially on Twitter. We'll keep you posted on what's happening with the Tigers in between episodes. Well, let's get into the reason that this recruiting class is growing a little bit, and that is the cue scary voice here, transfer portal, right? Like, I don't think anyone around Clemson feels very hugely awesome about the transfer portal. However, this may be the year that things change a little bit. Some winds are blowing that show Clemson is looking more seriously at taking some transfers in at positions of extreme need. Let's start the conversation, though, with who else leaving. Right now, as we record this, there are 9 guys in the portal. The headline among them, of course, especially nationally, is DJ Uiagalelei. His successor, his heir apparent, seems ready to go. Maybe there are some guys who are going to affect this team more with their departure. Let's run through the list real quick. Wide receivers, EJ Williams, another Phoenix City, Alabama guy, Dakari Collins from the Atlanta area. At running back, Kobe Pace. At quarterback, another reserve, Billy Wiles, hadn't played a lot. And then 4 guys on defense who I think are pretty dang talented. They just haven't seen the field a ton. Defensive end Kevin Swint, who figured to step into a starting role next year, right? A couple of linebackers, Vontae Bentley, who I just always enjoy watching him play when he gets on the field. Sergio Allen, also at linebacker. He struggled to get on the field much. And then DB Fred Davis, a corner who had some off-the-field problems, had some trouble earning playing time on the field, and had trouble really thriving when he was out there. Quite a list, with the exception of, former walk-on Billy Wiles, a lot of star value there. And if you want to say, oh, the recruiting services don't know anything, like there's a list of players who you might pick on, it really goes against the grain overall of how highly rated recruits end up typically blossoming into useful players. Who do you think hurts us the most, Daniel?
Well, obviously the name is going to be DJ, right? And, I hate that it has worked out the way it's worked out. I love DJ. I think he's been a great representative of our alma mater, and I think he's been a great teammate, and he's a great young man. I don't think you can argue any of that stuff, but it hasn't worked out at quarterback. And you can understand after what we saw in Charlotte why he's in the portal. But I think Swint's the name. I really think Swint is the first one where you go, oh, wait a minute. That one surprised me. I wasn't surprised by DJ, again, what we heard and what we saw Saturday. I wasn't surprised by Levante Bentley. I mean, he's made some good plays. I love him. I love him as a player. But you could see where he could say, man, I want to get on the field some more. I wasn't surprised by Fred Davis or Dakari Collins or EJ Williams, who, again, a lot like DJ, after his freshman year, I thought this young man is going to be a big piece of the puzzle for the Tigers, and it hasn't worked out. But Swint, Bill, I thought Swint had a chance to be a starter next year. With all of the defensive linemen who are leaving this team, I was thinking, okay, Swint's going to really take that step forward next year. I thought he was going to take a big step forward this year, and he played well at times, and he did the job at times, but I really wanted to see him just rush the quarterback and what he could be just rushing the quarterback. And I thought he would get that chance next year. So now, obviously, he's not going to do that with the Tigers. you wonder, what does that mean for any of those guys coming back? Or are any of them coming back? Miles Murphy's not coming back, and obviously, but I mean, what about a Justin Maskell? What about Xavier Thomas? Does this mean maybe he knows they're coming back? I don't know. There's been no indication that that's the case, but maybe Kevin knows something that we don't know as far as who's coming back, and he wants to look for an opportunity to play somewhere else. So, all that stuff's got to play out. But if everybody who was eligible to leave left, I thought for sure he would be in the starting lineup as we would enter next season. And this one really surprised me.
Yep, I agree. We knew about Takari Collins and Sergio Allen for quite some time. EJ Williams, a little surprising to me. I do think Swint is kind of the unsung headline here, if you want to put it that way. I know everybody's going to look at Uiagalelei. Really grateful for what he brought to Clemson. Would love to see him available as a reserve during the bowl game, but again, that's just purely unlikely to happen, right? EJ Williams was one that caught me off guard because I thought that he was suffering through injury rehab this year and not bouncing back as quickly as expected. So much potential in him that he flashed during his freshman year. A lot of ability, fun guy to root for. His family story with veteran history in his family and changing numbers on the military appreciation day that freshman year, and then having a touchdown catch and having another deep ball his way. Really enjoyed what he brought to the table for Clemson, and unfortunate to see him taking his talents elsewhere, but I'll enjoy watching him wherever he goes. And I hope these guys are going to do well. Bottom line, you hope they reset themselves and figure things out, and you hope they don't go to South Carolina like Tavian Feaster. I'm not gonna let that go. And I'm not even a Clemson guy who grew up in South Carolina, so that should tell you something, right? I think, yeah, Swint opens up the biggest need without a doubt, right? Like he was the one guy on the roster who you thought, okay, he'll be back, he's going to rise, and then what's going to happen among like Tamarian Parker's an early enrollee freshman in this recruiting class versus the other defensive ends who are coming in Victor Burley and David Ojigbe. They are not going to enroll early. So it'd be a little bit tougher for them to learn, hey, when am I setting the edge? When do I have a green light to go after the quarterback? When am I supposed to, drop into coverage? Clemson likes to drop defensive ends into coverage, has for a long time through several defensive coordinators. So maybe a little bit more of a learning curve. And that's where I think Clemson has to look at that spot at the very least in the portal to try to bring in some talent. And I know it goes counter to everything Dabo Swinney likes to talk about, all the ways that he likes to run this program. He wants his guys to have a shot. But let's face it, the three guys in the last two classes at defensive end, Cade Denoff, Zaire Patterson 2 years ago, and then Jaheim Lawson last year out of Daniel High, none of them particularly bulky, and none of them have really gained a ton of snaps on the field. Denoff, I think, the most of the three. So you have to think that even if they're saying, hey, we'll bring you in, yeah, you'll have a chance to start, but you may be a reserve to start the year behind the guys who have been paying their dues. It might be a battle where you need an outsider to come in and win.
Definitely. And look, I don't think that you're going to see Clemson change its program. This program is not going to be Portal U, right? Like a lot of fans want. They're not going to bring in 10 transfers. It's just not going to happen. But you can fill in holes when they pop up on the roster. And that's what's happened on the defensive line. And you can see that. And yeah, you can trust your recruits and you can trust the players that you've got in your program to improve. But you also have to acknowledge, look, we've got a little bit of a hole here. There's some veterans out there we could go get, and we don't take that big of a step back. So, I think that you will see Clemson jump into the portal. What positions? I think we could list them off. I think you could probably go get a veteran quarterback to kind of do what Hunter Johnson did this year. I think you probably could go get a running back, a tackle, somebody on the defensive line, and maybe a cornerback. But I think those are kind of the positions you're looking at. You said something I did want to address. You do hope these young men go somewhere else and do well, right? Like if you can't if you're a Clemson fan and you can't cheer for DJ no matter where he's playing, you're doing it wrong. I mean, he has been a terrific representative of this university, and he's been through a lot. I think you wish him well and you cheer for him. That almost becomes like your number 2 team as DJ is playing somewhere else. So you don't wish ill will on any of these guys. You hope they have success and then see what they can become after that.
Yeah, Florida State would be another tough one for me, of course. I guess I'd have to root for him to have 400 yards and they still lose the game somehow, right? So, yeah, you don't root against these guys as individuals. You really don't. Going to be a busy couple of weeks, like you said. As we record this, we are 12 days away from signing day, and then the transfer portal will continue to be active after that. It's a little bit of a tough game for coaches to play, trying to accurately gauge how many takes they can have, who they can look at, and then jumping in quickly on guys in the transfer portal who may already have something figured out in their heads. So they may be playing catch up on some of these guys. It seemed like maybe they were last year with the center out of UVA who ended up at Michigan and a couple other players who seem to really have their minds made up before Clemson even began talking to them. So a lot of rumors out there ahead of time of where they quote unquote might end up, right?
You've got to adjust. And I think we've seen Dabo adjust. I mean, we've seen him make coaching changes when coaching changes have need to be made. And he's not going to fall behind too far. Maybe people say they're behind right now, but they will adjust. And I know people like to say that Dabo's stubborn and he's stuck in his ways, but he's not going to not do what he can to win games. I can't see that happening. As frustrating sometimes as it can be that Clemson's not as aggressive with some of this stuff, I think he will adjust that way of thinking, and they'll go get some guys in the portal this year who can help them next year. And I don't have any doubt about that.
Can any of these receivers reclassify and get out there 9 days after signing day and line up against Tennessee or, other positions where we might need a little help, not to say, hey, don't like this guy, don't like that guy. But I mean, there are some definite depth issues. Any news that you're hearing on the front of Clemson versus Tennessee, which also is, when you think about it, not that far away, about 3 weeks from today.
It is right there, right? I mean, it's getting close. I mean, there's some talk about Jalen Hyatt, whether or not he's going to play. That's going to be interesting. And that will, obviously impact Clemson and the game plan. And so we'll see how that plays out. And look, there might be some Clemson guys who decide not to play and they're going to go get ready for the draft. That's just the life of college football right now. It's not what you want, right? In the perfect world, everybody wants to play in the bowl game and then go get ready for the NFL draft. But that's not the way it works out now. I'm sure the coaches will have an idea of who wants to play and who doesn't. They'll adjust, and then we'll move forward. And I can't wait to watch the game. I think it's going to be a terrific game. I love the matchup for Clemson. I think it's a lot like maybe the UNC matchup. Tennessee's defense isn't great, and I think Clemson can maybe exploit them a little bit. And it'll be fun to see that Clemson defense go up against that Tennessee offense.
We'll keep you posted if anything unfolds on that front as well. So a lot going on right now, even though it's December, it's usually kind of a quieter time for football fans. Plenty of headlines, plenty of things to keep up with. Stay right here. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on the podcast apps. We do 2 episodes a week. We'll keep you up to speed on everything that's happening surrounding Clemson football. And then any other major headlines with the other sports as well. We will make sure we mention that. Social media, at Clemson Kickoff. Twitter and Instagram, especially Twitter. We got plenty of news there. We'll be retweeting. We'll be adding our own takes on things as well. And then our homepage, clemsonkickoff.com. Check our podcast archives there. See where we've gotten it right all season. See the areas where we did get it wrong. We also are working to line up some guests for recruiting before and after signing day. We'll be sure you get all the details that we can bring to you. Until our next episode, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.